That way, for those that didn't make it, and also for you, you can have a copy of the recording. It sits on our YouTube channel. We have our own YouTube channel, just a few more people on it, and it'll be public. All right. We just have a couple of housekeeping items. If you're not talking, place yourself on mute. If you are talking, please introduce yourself, because there's a lot of people who don't know each other, your company and location. And if you have questions, you can use the chat box. We're actively monitoring it. And everyone's encouraged to participate today. There are no right or wrong answers. We want to hear from everyone. And that's it on the housekeeping. Okay,
All
Tracy,
right.
put on your hard hat.
All right. Thank you, Paula.
You're welcome.
So just to start the meeting, I want to welcome and thank all of you for joining us today. And as you know, we've been doing these coffee meetings since COVID. So we are 2 years underway, if you can believe that. And the reason that we've been doing the coffee meetings is to continue to bring education, information, with the meetings that we have with the city of Chicago, as well as the airport. It's a means for us to relay this information to you and to gather your feedback so that we can take that back when we are having these meetings. It's extremely helpful to us. And as always, if there's a future topic, if there's something that you want to know more about, or you want us to research a speaker, is just let us know. You can email or text, call Paula, myself, Art, any one of us on the board, and just let us know about a topic that you're interested in, and we will do our best to find a speaker or find more information about that topic. So at this time, I would like to introduce our board of directors. We have Art Rento, who is currently our president, and he should be joining us shortly, of Pontarelli. Myself, Tracy Raymer, vice president, and also executive vice president of Windy City Limousine and Bus. I saw Kaya. We have Kaya Armagan of Flash Limousine and Bus. We have Beth Cox of Cox Livery Service. Paula DiBiase of Chicago Coachworks, who serves as our secretary and also our executive director. We have James Jordan of Lux Tux Transportation, Lynn Kafkes of Galaxy Limousine, Michael McDaniels. I saw Michael here. We have Michael McDaniels of Schreiber Transportation Insurance. Jay Pearson is also here with us of Century Business Solutions. And last but not least, we have Brian Sheely of Epic Limo, who also serves as our treasurer. So as we're discussing, Paula had mentioned that this is more of a discussion. There are no right answers. It's just more or less a roundtable discussion, just to see how everyone is doing, just to see how you are operating through the different challenges of post-COVID, if you will. And there's just a lot of looming challenges right now. There's rumors of a recession, and with those rumors, are you conserving cash? Are you holding tight? Or are you continuing to purchase vehicles when and if they are available? So this was a means just to, we're midsummer right now. We've got weeks and we're going to be closing up the summer and heading into fall. And what does that look like? Do you continue hiring and not knowing will the demand continue as it has in the past 5 or 6 months, or do we feel that demand is going to pull back due to a rumor of recession? So I just think there's a lot of unknowns and nobody has the right answer. We don't have a playbook for this. So Paula did put together some questions, or the board put together some questions, and one of those being, are you adding or removing vehicles from your fleet? If you're adding vehicles, what types are you considering and why? Just to get the conversation started. I've been seeing independent operators, they're starting to ask if they can add the Paula, help me, the Wagoneer.
Oh, the Jeep Wagoneer, yes.
The Jeep Wagoneer, if they could add that to their fleet. I'm hearing reports that the size it meets the size requirements that we all need. It's more of a higher end vehicle. So that might be a new vehicle that we're starting to see. I know we've had 5 or 6 operators that want to add it to the fleet, but nobody has pulled the trigger yet on it. So I'll turn it over to everyone else and just talk about vehicles. Are you looking to add vehicles? If so, what type of vehicles are you looking to add? Or are you looking to use more independent operators and your affiliate relations to keep from adding just because you want to conserve cash and hold tight right now?
So you brought up the Grand Wagoneer, or the Wagoneer, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is a Chrysler certified automotive technician. He went through the college automotive program down at OSU Okmulgee, and he works at a dealership in Lawrence, Kansas. Best advice I can give you right now is don't go out buying the Wagoneer right now. He has been going after problem after problem after problem with them. It's one of those things. Last week, actually, I heard on a news program that the reliability of new vehicles has gone down 11%. And kind of the running joke is that when everyone went virtual, apparently quality control did too. So I would be very, very, very cautious about adding the Wagoneer just because of the problems that he has experienced. Just with, I mean, obviously we put our vehicles through more severe conditions than the average consumer, and yeah, 5,000 miles and these things are problematic. So
that's great info. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? And I think another question that operators are dealing with right now is the sedan versus the SUV. I think if you look at your bookings and you find your customers understand that if they book a sedan, that odds are they're going to receive an SUV anyways. Are you leaving a lot of money on the table? And across the nation, I haven't seen anyone in actually, I have talked to an operator in Chicago that has actually eliminated the sedan option. He's not running sedans right now. He only has SUV, and he has just virtually eliminated the sedan option. And I have heard operators across the nation that are starting to do the same, or they're treating the sedans like a bus. So you have a limited supply of buses. Once those are sold out, they're sold out. They're doing the same thing with their sedans. Once they're sold out, we have SUVs available. So that's another, are you looking to increase SUVs, sedans, according to your bookings?
Well, we still, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I do know of an operator that has segmented his SUV pricing for 1 to 3 passengers and 4 to 6 passengers.
Mm-hmm.
And would that be something that, maybe something to consider if you're not going to run sedans?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for us, we have toyed with the idea of just going all sedans, but we have a number of customers who are elderly, and they absolutely cannot get into the SUV. So by necessity, we have to have at least one, maybe 2, because we really still cater to, our oldest client is 95 and she travels, and so we really don't want to make it uncomfortable for them to be able to get into a vehicle. Plus, we're still looking at our average number of passengers per trip. And pre-COVID, it was always 1, was our high average, not high average, but our average. And we still average 1 for corporate. So, and our corporate work is still not there. So we're trying to balance that out right now. But I think for us, having at least 1 sedan is just required.
How does the ground clearance or the step-in height of the Aviator compare to the MKT? And Paula, and I asked that because Paula, you said the elderly. How were the elderly getting into the MKT? Was it still difficult for them versus an MKS or a
MKSs were difficult, but the MKTs are pretty easy for them to get in and out of.
The MKS is just because of how low it is to the ground. Is that it?
No, mainly because the size in the back for them. Once the door opening was a little smaller, so the MKS they could do it. We didn't have any challenges, but I think the MKTs got a slightly bigger door, and it's been easy for them to get in and out of. So as far as the Aviator, I'm not sure on the clearance. I did look at one. It did not look like it was a problem.
I've had other operators mention some of the rails that you can slide the seat forward and back on might get caught up by some people, especially if they're trying to get to that 3rd row. And everything I've heard is that 3rd row is useless unless you're 7 years old.
Oh, you mean for the Aviator? You're talking about the Aviator.
Yeah. I do know I talked to Mike Birmingham out of Toledo, and he's picked up a couple of Nautiluses and seems to really enjoy the Nautiluses. That they've got reasonable room, and they get better fuel economy, and they come at a lower price than what the Aviator does. And quite honestly, if we're going to be using them for 1 or 2 people, I don't think people are even going to notice the difference between an Aviator and a Nautilus.
Well, interesting you bring that up because I now have an interesting problem on my driver team. I have at least 2 drivers that are over 6'4". So I don't see them being very comfortable driving the Nautilus for any long distances. And I was going to look at, in fact, we were going to look at one, but given the fact that they can manage in the MKT, they can manage in the Chryslers, they can manage in the SUVs, but I think that might be a little bit small. So
I'll just mention that for us, obviously getting cars is hard. That's number one. Number two, we're kind of branching out into other types of vehicles. I don't have a list in front of me, but there's probably 5 or 6 that we wouldn't normally think of as livery vehicles, but they're good size. The big key for me was the legroom in the back.
yeah,
I think 39 inches is the minimum that we looked at, because you get below that and everybody feels cramped. But we've looked at, we're allowing chauffeurs to put on different types of cars now, because I'm sure everybody has the same problem. You have to get drivers. And the more cars that you have that they can choose from, the more likely, or hopefully the more likely, you will get some more chauffeurs as well. But so far, we haven't got any takers, but I think we do have to look at different types of vehicles. I mean, if I had my druthers, I'd have the L series from the Lincoln, if they were in good shape. I love those cars, but they're
Yeah.
just not available. And there's no sedan that actually meets very many needs, even
Right.
with luggage. So, 1 or 2, you're lucky in the sedans with luggage. So we're just trying to look at different options for types of cars. And I think from a customer point of view, we talked about that, that they want the transportation, they want it comfortable, they want it clean. We don't budge on the color, black on black. That's what we have to have. But a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between one car and another anyway. And if you get them and pick them up on time and it's a comfortable ride and you have a good chauffeur, that's really, for us anyway, we think that's a more important issue.
so do we. Yeah.
Agree.
Mhm.
I believe that at this point in time, we're still operating sedans, and I purchased a couple of Volvos, which started out kind of rocky, but they're working out okay now. Aviators seem to work out well in place of the sedan, and we're just starting to see SUVs coming in, but we are upgrading equipment. I think that through this last period we've been in, we've been able to stash away enough cash so that, in the event there is a recession, we're good for a year, 7, 8 months, a year, a while anyways. I don't know. I think, it's all a gray area. Just got to watch what happens. I think these calls will help. We're still seeing demand is still strong.
COVID has definitely changed our mindset when it comes to cash.
Yeah.
Like when you just said a year, I mean, you conserved cash before, you get you through 3 months, 6 months. Who would have ever
Right.
thought an entire year for operations? And now it's like, oh no, you better have that available.
You know what? When you keep raising your rates and there's no limit, and you keep raising your rate, raising your rate, and you're not seeing bookings fall off, they just keep coming. It's a nice position. I mean, I've never been able to do that as we've done it now.
So do we want to segue into that topic if anyone else doesn't have anything to add regarding vehicles? I'm actually doing seminar for the Women's Leadership Council for the NLA this afternoon, and that's one of the topics is as far as rates. And, you know, I've talked to operators that are going to be on that panel that in the last 18 months, they've raised their rates 5 different times. So are we now at a point where we've seen that stabilize a little bit? Obviously fuel is, you know, that will continue one way or the other, but besides fuel, do we feel that we've kind of have plateaued and we're there, or are some of these operators thinking of raising their rates, you know, once again, coming into the
We have
fall
a
month?
number of people that booked with us for entertainment for Lollapalooza. We're
Mhm.
basically telling them that our fleet isn't what it was last time Lollapalooza took place. And that we will be, you know, we'll be required to subcontract a certain portion of it. And with that being said, you know, our rates are going to be substantially higher than normal. And everybody's like, that's fine, let's do it. Go.
Yep.
They don't care. They just want it to happen and want it to happen right, and that's it.
The
Yeah.
bigger thing is, and real quick, I do want to say, as far as the recession goes, I've seen some reports that as far as fleet building goes,
Paula, can you mute that iPad one?
we will, that I guess repossessions have dramatically upticked with everything going up, the price of fuel, you know, and that people don't have the money to pay their car payments anymore. So I guess repossessions have ticked up. So we might be able to see some more vehicles here hit the auctions in a few months. As far as, you know, what Arthur, you were saying with rates go, I think our clients are fine paying whatever the rate is, as long as we guarantee that they're going to have the service. I think they've been burned from so many different aspects, from, you know, trying to order appliances and get appliances in a timely manner, to furniture, to airline tickets, you know, getting bumped from airlines. I think, you know, they're willing to pay whatever the rate is, as long as we can guarantee there's going to be a vehicle there where they want the vehicle. They, you know, they're that insurance is priceless to them.
I think the bigger issue for us in Chicago, I mean, recession, right? I mean, all of this stuff is going to be whatever it is. But the bigger issue for us in our market, I think, is crime. You now have, you know, groups doing racing downtown Chicago, closing off intersections, doing burnouts, and the police can't stop them. And when the police show up, they're climbing on the hoods, trying to break the windows. I mean, our bigger problem is crime. We're seeing people flying in with private security or asking us to get them security.
Yeah.
I think that our biggest issue, in my opinion, is crime.
You know, and now that you just said that, is we had a training class yesterday, and most of our CDL chauffeurs have been coming from the trucking industry. And yesterday it was a class of, I think there was 11 in that class. 4 of them came from CTA. The class before 2 weeks ago, we had 3 from CTA. I talked to the 4 yesterday and just asked them, they've been with CTA, the minimum amount was 15 years. The other 3 were longer than 15 years. And I asked why they were making a change after they've been doing CTA for so long. And they said, our safety, it's no longer safe. They said, you know, it used to be where they were attacking each other, you know, on the buses and what have you. And they said, and now they're attacking the driver.
Yeah.
And
I've
so
heard the
purely
same
because, yeah, purely because of safety is they're looking for a change. They're looking to do something else.
What is catalytic converter stuff like up there? Because we've had some people that have been hit where their mini coaches are parked outside in an unsecured lot. Now there's lights. I don't know whether or not there's a camera, but they'll go through, and if a catalytic converter hasn't been stolen on that vehicle before, it's getting stolen, and then of course they're putting on the cat cables and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
we get these urgent calls going, hey, we need whatever you can get here at this time, because, you know, we had 3 of our vehicles had their catalytic converters cut off last night. What is that like? What is that like in the Chicago market? Because it's pretty rampant here in Kansas City.
So far, we've been lucky. It's one of these things.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhoods though. It's not so, I mean, like we're on the north side, toward the lake, and there are, I mean, reports daily, multiple times a day. It doesn't matter what time. where there are groups of them going out and they're carrying the clippers and the whole 9 yards, and they're just going through. And if they get encountered by someone, they're turning violent in some cases. So I know the Chicago police has been getting more involved in it. But there's certain cars they just go after because they're easy for them to get. And they're in a matter of less than 2 minutes, they've got it out. So I don't think, and what I read something recently where in some cases, they're having trouble even filing insurance claims on them. So my neighbor has a
Infinity has a
Honda.
problem. Infinity, they still 10 catalytic converters in one night.
And from your company, or you heard of that?
No, Infinity.
Oh, Infinity.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
you want to know so apparently the parking lot, the economy parking lot for Terminal B here in Kansas City, which is Delta and Southwest, Southwest is our largest state carrier. They do 50% of the passengers. Apparently, what ends up happening is we have people that should get dropped off at the terminal with like duffel bags with the tools and whatnot to cut off the catalytic converters late at night with the latest arrivals. They go over to where the baggage claim is. They walk out the doors from the baggage claim, get on the bus that takes them to the parking lot, get dropped off in the parking lot, and then just wait around a little bit because there's no more flights coming in. They steal like a Ford F-250, F-350, which I guess those are really easy to steal, break into, and pop the locks and whatnot. Go around, cut off a dozen or so catalytic converters within the parking lot, and then leave. And the airport police sits here and, they're like, yeah, with these people that are coming back, they're like, yeah, you're our fourth report today of a catalytic converter being cut off in this parking lot. Yeah. I don't know what the airport police is doing in the middle of the night up because, we don't have any flights arriving, but watching in the parking lots.
Wow. But I think Art's right though. I mean, the crime situation has made it really so more challenging for people. I'm curious because I know we got a couple of local operators on. We've been hearing some concerns, particularly since some of the criminal activities have been right in downtown. Are you getting any concerns from your drivers about driving?
We're not.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think concerns most definitely. I'm sure we have had some that just said, I'm not comfortable doing that, and we just replace it with somebody else that will.
Yeah. We're having
But
trouble
for
covering
great-
Southside trips. So
Yeah, for greeters, I mean, I manage the greeter department, and I have certain greeters that have to be done by 5, 6 o'clock because I just don't want to be on the train any later than that. And that just started in the past year. So it's just very concerning when, you're doing a job like that, and then you want to go to work and you want to make money and you want to do what you need to do, and you're not able to because of your safety. You
yeah.
fear for your safety.
I think that's going to be our challenge going forward. And unfortunately, there really isn't anything we can do about it. We can vote
Yeah.
Republican.
Oh, God.
Here we
It's
go.
not a political meeting.
It is a political issue though.
It is a political issue, but that's
Very much so.
But this is not a political meeting.
I understand that, but it is a political issue.
No, it's real, and I think that we'll see it affecting our businesses even more so, because I mean, every one of us is hearing about it, and it in a small way, it's affecting us, but we're able to overcome it. And the good side of it is now we have these CTA drivers coming to us. So that's kind of the good side of it, but it's sad knowing the reason that they're coming here.
You have major corporations leaving the city that are leaving downtown Chicago because their employees don't want to come downtown to go to work.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a big problem, especially when you operate in the city.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Yeah.
And I don't see that in any way, shape, or form changing at this point.
Okay, I
Sorry.
don't have it up in front of me, but what's the next question, or does somebody have another topic that they would like to discuss?
We had a second question. A few people have been contacting the office about international arrivals because they have been experiencing more than 2 hours waiting for clients.
I don't
Some,
think it's just for you guys. I don't think it's just international. I think domestic is an issue as well with certain airlines getting their baggage up in time.
right,
Join the meeting.
in this case, people have been bringing it up because the longest waits have been for international. Like, I know one operator called in and she was almost 3 hours waiting for customer. So, I think we wanted to have some discussion about between that now and coupled with the fact that meet and greets are going to be a challenge there as well, to really see what people were deciding to do. I have talked to a couple of operators individually, and they are changing the way they bill and accept these trips. So I was just curious as to what other people are doing.
So when you say changing the way they bill, what does that mean?
Like one operator is considering all international arrivals as a full-on charter.
As a
Hourly
what?
charter. As a full-on hourly charter.
So like a 2-hour minimum, like an
2-hour
FBO?
minimum, yes. We're not doing that. We're doing 1 hour spot time as an experiment. We're doing it with Epic because we do a lot of Epic's rides. And we've done, so in other words, if the arrival time is 4 p.m., we spot time at 5. So far, we've done 5 trips in the last week, all international. One was early, which was the first one I've seen in a while. And the rest were fine. We did the 1 hour, the client was fine. They were, by the time they were ready, they had everything ready. They were right within the hour or just a couple of minutes afterward. So we're going to continue to monitor it and hopefully we can stick to the 1 hour. There's no objections either. When we explain to them that, at least for us, when we explain that if you want us there when the plane lands, we're happy to do it. But once we hit the hour mark, it's going to a charter. And they'll say, no, you can come an hour later. We'll be, now there has been some question among some operators about, well, what happens if the person has global services? We're gonna ask them if they have global services, but here's the catch. Even if they have global services, we are having delays at baggage claim, customs, and immigration. Sometimes all 3, sometimes just 1. So I don't know that if they have checked bags, I'm not sure that global entry is not necessarily going to prioritize their bags. Some may have priority on their bag tags, but as in some nights, there's only been 1 or 2 baggage handlers for all the incoming international flights. So, and that happened to us 2 months ago. We waited almost 4 hours for one person. And then actually we waited 5 hours for another person. So I think you can ask, but I'm not, unless they don't check any bags at all, they might get through a little faster with global entry, but so that's what we're doing. The spot time seems to be working for us, so we'll keep doing it for now.
I guess I don't understand what the big what the big pushback is, because I've seen this within some of the software groups. Paula, you and I have talked about it. What the big pushback is when you're have got your client on the phone asking them, here are the options. We can show up when the plane lands. We can show up 30 minutes after the plane lands. And I say after the plane lands because, it may be one of those things where it lands. We've had issues here with an iStore where it lands and it takes 3 hours for it to pull up to the gate or,
That's why it should be once the plane gates.
But, if it's on the ground, you don't know how long it's necessarily going to take to get to the gate. And that's
no, but your waiting time. So like what if you've got operators that are thinking about changing to a 2-hour minimum or changing your billing because how long it's taking, it's not the client's fault that they're sitting on the tarmac. So you really, my opinion is that you really can't charge the client until it gates. And then at that point you could start the clock then.
Yeah.
But how is it our fault? We have expense to pay someone to sit there waiting for that plane to come in. I mean, you know, we have to see, and this is part of the discussion that we have to have with the clients that, you know, like I think anybody who's reasonable understands that this, you know, that this is the case. And I mean, they're quite honestly, I think there's been discussion that we've had, Paula, you've been there. There's been discussion that we should charge more for trips during a snowstorm because it takes twice as long to get to the airport. That means we have more labor expense. We have more fuel expense. We, you know, we have an increased likelihood of being involved in a collision where that vehicle is going to be out of service and we're going to, you know, lose revenue or have an insurance deductible, so on and so forth there. So that, you know, these are things that I think the customer would, if you have a discussion with them and actually are open and honest with, these are our costs. We're not a high profit margin industry by any means. You know, unfortunately, this is what, you know, we have to do in order to, you know, remain profitable and remain here for when the next time you travel is.
Unfortunately, our customer base is already educated because rideshare has taught them that. It's up to us as operators if you want to go that route or not.
Yeah.
I personally like Paula's idea of the 1 hour spot time for international. I think we all subconsciously do that. If we know a plane's landing at 3 p.m., oh, it's international. Okay, we know we don't really need a chauffeur up there until 4 p.m. I think we subconsciously do that. But Paula taking that extra step and letting the client know we're going to have a 1 hour spot time and letting them know up front, just in case they call 45 minutes. And that happens to be early, then you had already let them know you're doing a 1 hour spot time.
In the last 4 months, I've only had one person come out of international in 30 minutes. He came from London, so he probably cleared it up front, but he also had no luggage whatsoever. He had a briefcase. I don't know, yeah. So that is the exception rather than the rule. So, like I said, we're going to continue to do this for a while, monitor it. Epic seems to be comfortable with it too. We haven't had any issues yet, knock on wood.
So Tim, it's Michael from Schreiber. In your scenario about the snow, if I book with you on October 3rd for December 22nd, what are you're gonna change my price?
No.
Okay.
Join the meeting.
It's a good question.
No, I will not, but there have been operators that say that they will. Not a huge number by any means, but I can tell you that my personal policy has been that, you know, here it is. I know it's July and it's 8,000 degrees outside and the sun has moved like 14 miles closer to us. But you know, let's say that tomorrow, you know, the forecast is there's a snowstorm that's coming. We know about this snowstorm. You know, I don't care what you give meteorologists a hard time about how, oh, they forecasted 8 inches and we only got 4, whatever. Okay. We can go into that. I have a degree in that crap, but it's one of those things that tomorrow at 6 p.m., a winter storm warning goes into effect. And that winter storm warning goes into effect from 6 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, until midnight Thursday night. Okay. I will sit there and I will take reservations all the way up until 6 p.m. Wednesday night for trips that take place during that, 30 hours. Okay. But once 6 p.m. hits, I don't take any more reservations during that time slot. And the reason why is because I need to make sure that I can service those trips that are already taking place. And I have I have increased my rates for people that book last minute on trips like that.
I understand that. That makes sense.
But it's, you know, but it is, I mean, and that's really the biggest thing that I think we run into is that people are, you know, waiting until the last minute, waiting to see how bad the storm is. I don't want my daughter driving me to the airport, or I don't want to drive to go get my niece. I want to have someone else take that risk of doing that. Or, oh, I thought I'd just get an Uber and I can't find an Uber. All the Ubers, you know, like that's, you know, and I'm sorry, but failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. I mean, I will sit there and I've known operators that say, well, I'll do it. The rate's going to be $1,000 because that's what my insurance deductible is. So, I mean, But yeah, I have heard people discuss, you know, if there's a major accident on the way to the airport, it takes you 20 minutes longer to get to the airport. Bill the client for that extra 20 minutes. I think it's absurd, but there have been people that have said that.
Is it, Tim?
Yeah,
Is it cold in that room with all the ice?
I'm trying to make it feel colder in here.
Because they're having a heat wave like we are. But
This is forecast to be our first 100-degree day in over 4 years.
wow.
So
Well, we have a fee, and we've always had it. We just have an international fee that we add on to any international arrival. It's been fine. Our customers are used to paying it. It's a nominal fee. It allows us to cover the driver's extra time waiting for the trip to arrive, if there is that extra time, and it works out.
But I've got to be honest, I can see it probably has been, but we have, maybe it's just us, but was it the end of May? We had one arrival Air India on a Sunday morning, 7:30. We did not, with Windy City's help, because I couldn't even stay on the job. We waited 5.5 hours for them to come out. There was no security issues with the person, nothing. Just waiting for bags, waiting for immigration. So 7:30 a.m., we picked them up at 12:45.
Well, I think like everything else, like every other business, the airlines are short on employees.
They are.
So when these flights come in, you know, to get your luggage, you need to have people that move it from the plane to the conveyor belt, and they just don't
Bless
have
you.
it.
Yeah, it is, yeah. All right.
So, hey, this is Stephanie. Just to piggyback on Paula, we've implemented the 1 hour spot time as well. What I have noticed is that those that have carry-ons are definitely getting out much faster than the rest. So, you know, you gotta decipher, you know, do you be there waiting, or you know, inform them, or what do you do?
I think because they still have to get through. So one night it was all three, baggage, customs, and immigration. They could not get through. It was, each one was taking an hour. So I think, Stephanie, to your point, if you know they have carry-ons, maybe you adjust it. Or still give them the option for the 1 hour. Because there is going to be other, they still have to get through the terminal. Even if they don't have a bag. We picked someone up the other night. They did Cancun. They only had carry-on. It really wasn't much. I mean, they made it just at the hour. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think unless there's no more conversation about this. Hey, Lynn, are you on? Or maybe I lost her. Let's see.
What has your experience been? Obviously, we don't have our airport, believe it or not, we actually have more security expense than O'Hare does. And we don't have near the traffic. It's our airport is set up in a stupid way. We've got 18,000 security checkpoints, one for each airline.
Wow.
So it's rather efficient to get through security. What is security like there at Midway and O'Hare as far as security lines go? And I say that because at the end of last month, there was a report that came out on Business Insider or something like that, London Heathrow was asking airlines to cancel flights because
They have been, yeah.
The passenger count was so high, they could not get people through security in a timely manner. I had a client that flew back from London Heathrow. He had a first class ticket, and it took him 90 minutes to get through the first class security line, which had never taken that long before. And when he got to the gate, it was last call for boarding of his flight to New York. And they actually ended up delaying the plane because there was nobody there to board the plane because of security. But it was taking them 3.5 hours to get through security as people that didn't have first class tickets. What have you guys experienced longer wait times at security? Have you heard that from your clients that are traveling internationally, just trying to get into the airport? Obviously not. So.
No, I mean, if they have, they've told the chauffeurs, and I haven't heard from my chauffeurs that there were that anyone brought anything up, but I've only been watching what's been reported locally, that, typically here, the worst days are Mondays for TSA and even pre-check. So, and I don't think in fact, I think we've gone back to that problem where their lines are usually the longest in the mornings. On Mondays.
I've heard that international travel is just awful right now.
It's really bad, and they are trying. I read the same. I probably read the same article you did about London Heathrow. They are actually asking the airlines not to book anything else because they cannot handle it. So I'm not sure how that's going to have an effect on our travel. Perhaps some of our clients will just skip Europe for the summer or whatever. But I think this whole concept of international arrivals is one of these fluid things. Like right now, we're doing the spot time. It's working. We'll keep watching it. And anytime there's a hiccup and it doesn't work, we'll figure out what it is and see if we need to adjust it. We're also requiring phone numbers on every international arrival because we do some affiliate work and they don't give us the phone numbers. And we ran into a problem the other day, and the person was actually caught in baggage claim because they lost their luggage and we didn't have a phone number. So we're making some additional changes. I think,
Like, Dave, what is your experience? I mean, you've got outfits and, with the airports in LA and San Francisco, and those are both, I mean, huge international markets, especially coming from Asia.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to jump in and say that I jumped in a little bit late. I'm sorry about that, but I know that you guys were talking about an hour leeway time or wait time allotted. We don't do that in both in San Francisco and Los Angeles. We do 30 minutes because what we've come to find out, and it really all depends, because LA specifically, we do not do baggage meets. Like 99.9% of the time, we will not do baggage meet because LAX parking right now is horrible. Along with San Francisco, it's more convenient for the passengers. We'll do it if there's an older clientele, but we do, I'm sorry, it's 45-minute wait time, allotted time for domestic and international. Regarding getting people into the airport and going through security, SFO is famous for it, and LAX has become the worst airport to fly. I like, in my personal experience, and I'm flying there maybe every 2-3 weeks to my office, and it's just horrible. Security, if you don't have pre-TSA, you're in line for 30-40 minutes, which I've never been used to that. San Francisco is getting just as bad. We're just noticing a lot of delays at the airport. It just, especially LAX. SFO hasn't been so bad, but LAX has been horrible. And it has to do with not just the TSA, but it also has the construction, moving people around. They don't have enough gates for all the planes. Now they're doing, they'll drop the people off on the tarmac, have buses route them to the terminal. And then, so you're adding another 20 minutes to 25 minutes of time at LAX. So, the one suggestion I give everybody, if you have a client come into LAX, push for the curbside, because the driver will be there 10 minutes after the plane lands. I mean, our office is 7 minutes away from LAX, so it's super easy, but not everybody is that way. And even the lots where the drivers can wait, they're only allowed 15 minutes in there. Okay. So it's really horrible. And right now, because of construction, there's really nowhere to wait. They'll basically wait near where my office is.
Yeah, the upside with you guys though is you moved Uber off site.
What's that?
You guys, LA, Uber's not on site anymore.
Correct.
In our particular case, Uber's upstairs at arrival, at departures between every terminal. So while we're heading down to the terminal, they've got cars pretty much staged upstairs.
They have the entire terminal upstairs.
I mean, it's a different animal. Red
carpet all to themselves.
San Francisco the same way.
Hey, Dave, this is Michael McDaniels at Shriver Insurance.
Hey, what's up,
on those vehicles, or those planes that are being, parked away and being bussed in, the passengers, when you book that flight, is that time slot filled in there? Like if it says it's going to land at 2:22? No, so you have no idea who it's
You
gonna
have
be.
no idea. I mean, like I could just tell you, I went, I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I went to LA for my office there.
Yeah.
Got onto the plane. We were delayed, and then coming into LAX, we ended up waiting on the ramp. Then they decided that they're going to put us out off the terminal, and then so that was 20. I counted it. It was 22 minutes after we landed. Did we have a space to park? And then it took 7 minutes to get all the buses, and then it was 3 or 4 minute drive, 5 minute drive to the terminal. So right there is 40 minutes. Now we've advised clients coming into LAX, and it's in our confirmations. We allot for 45 minutes. We do not control what the airlines does when you land. All we care about is when they tell us the landing time.
Yeah.
And one of our clients did complain, and it was an affiliate. And I said, listen, I can't in the right mind not pay my driver for the time that he's sitting there for an hour, or an hour and a half over than the 45 minutes, just because because LAX wants to do what they want. And we've gotten pushback, but this is how we run our business. And as I tell people, and I think most of you guys will agree, it all depends on, if you want to be steadfast in your pricing and how you handle yourself, people are going to either use you or not.
But you also have this in your actual reservation.
Yeah, in a confirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so your confirmation states what your policy and procedures are, so.
100%. Every order, doesn't matter if you're coming, we use Limo Anywhere, and Limo Anywhere will send reservations to each other. We still send a confirmation, email confirmation every single time, and it has it there. And when somebody says, "Oh, I didn't know that," well, that's not my problem. You don't want to read. I don't like to read. That's why I have other people to read.
Yeah, I haven't told them that yet, but yeah, I get it.
I am wondering if, we've got a few more operators on here. If we could discuss the topic of insurance and what should be insurance requirements for operating at the airport, and how the city seems to be handling that right now, and what the state is relaying. And I don't know, I'm just absolutely dumbfounded that I've always understood it as when you operate at the airport, that it's interstate travel and that it requires 1.5 million. But when you talk to the city, they say they have nothing to do with that. They don't enforce it. You talk to the state. We just called the state 2 weeks ago. We had the state on a speakerphone and called them, and they're insuring sprinters for 300, what was it, 300,000?
350. Oh,
For
yeah.
350,000, and we asked them, and you can operate at the airport? Oh, yeah, why not? So it just seems like some way, somehow we need to educate our industry, which starts with educating the city, educating the airport, getting DOT involved as far as what are the requirements, because those of us from the ILA or ILLBA that we're requiring these limits, and we're looked at as the bad guy.
I'm a
This is
bad
our
guy.
role.
And Michael can kind of jump in on this, and I sit there, and people need to realize the liability insurance that these guys are buying at $350,000 or $500,000. That's more than just the people that are in their car. You're operating at an airport. Let's say you do something stupid and you end up hitting a mini coach that has 30 people on board. How far do you think that $350,000 is going to go if you're the one that's at fault for hitting that mini coach with 30 people on board?
So where does the problem actually lie? So we all know that this is an issue. We all know that there's operators that do not have the required minimum. Is the problem with the municipalities that are not enforcing it? And if they're not enforcing it, they're telling us flat out, we don't have the manpower to enforce it.
Well,
The actual problem with this is basically that it's not clear.
it's not
For
clear.
Sedan, the state requires 500,000 or 300,000. City of Chicago is 350, and Department of Transportation, if you're picking up at the airport, requires 1.5. So basically what we did is we tried to get some type of a clarification. So what should we have to operate? And the city says, you know what? They don't know what you're going to do when you get the license. For all they know, you're just going to ride around the city. You're never going to the airport. So they require 350.
Well, and I think that really to clarify that even further, it's not that they understood what we were saying, But what they said
don't
was
care.
it had nothing to do with them because they do not they do not enforce federal. So,
So,
I mean, but, you know, there's a, if you take this problem and you do a dialogue from the point where a chauffeur, or, you know, a driver or a company decides they're gonna buy insurance all the way to execution, there's a lot of places along the way where, quite frankly, there are multiple players who either don't understand or don't ask the questions. I'm dealing with it right now with a guy that drove for us, and now he went out and bought a car. And he came back the other day and said, I got $1 million. I said, okay, but I showed you this sheet. It's 1.5. Well, the agent said it's fine. No big deal. I said, okay. So we have education issues across the board where people are relying and they're not taking the initiative as they should to learn what they need to have. We're troubled by the fact that we don't know what's supposed to, how this should be regulated, but we have a big problem when operators don't know what they're buying and don't read and don't, you know, they're looking at price. Well, it's cheaper. Okay, but
cheaper
price
can be more
is,
expensive.
huh?
I said cheaper can be a lot more expensive.
Absolutely, and that's the conversation I have.
But what,
I'm completely legal, okay? I work with more people that are not. I point out to them that they are illegal. They don't like me, but I have to because I'm not doing it because I'm a hero. I'm doing it because I want to do the right thing. And I'm one of the few operators who has contractors and pays their workers' comp, and everyone thinks I'm a nutcase. But my lawyer said, since we're going to work with contractors, let's carry the burden, because I do not want to find out that they dropped it. And it's very, you know.
so what I don't understand is that when you apply for your insurance policy and the agent takes your application, I believe on every single application, it's asking you, what is the percentage of airport transportation that you perform?
It does.
The reason that they're asking that is because that is for the agent to determine whether you need 1.5 million or you can have a lesser value because you're not doing interstate travel. In addition to that, they go and buy a vehicle. They don't pay the sales tax on it because they have the MC number. In order to have the MC number, don't you have to be interstate travel?
Yes.
So you'll claim your interstate travel to avoid your sales tax, but you won't claim to be interstate travel to operate at the airport and adhere to 1.5 million. So none of that makes sense.
And then when you get audited for your taxes, you call us and say, oh my God, I'm being audited by the state for not paying sales tax. And then I'll say, did you put the MC number on it? Did you put more than 50% as interstate? And they go, what? One guy filled it out, put his social security number on it and sent it back. I mean, yeah, it's a
Okay, so
huge problem.
let's cut the chase on this thing and kind of get to the point.
Well,
Hmm.
Arthur, real
Doing art.
quick, I want to say, you know, Tracy, yeah, you would think that the agent would know, but the truth of the matter is Michael, you might be able to back me up on this. I recently got my insurance licensing, and when you go through, there is a section that talks about DOT, but only really about truckers and the limits that truckers should have. They don't talk about anything with passenger transportation. So whether or not the agent actually knows what the limit should be for passenger carrier, I don't know, unless they went through.
The agents in Chicago have been in this 30, 40, 50 years. They know.
Yeah, but
They're selling
there
these
are some
policies.
people that are going to agents that are like, you know, oh, you do my house, you're farmers, you know, what can you do for me? You know, and
So let's look at the big picture. Okay, the big picture is this: if as an association we push federal to enforce this, and if federal go out to the airport and start asking for insurance certificates, and if somebody doesn't have 1.5, they'll literally shut them down for not having the proper insurance to pick up the airport. So as the Illinois Limousine and Bus Association, if we physically go out and we push feds to enforce this, and it does get enforced, I'd say that probably 80% of our membership will go out of business.
Or
they
they
can't get the 1.5, or they just can't afford to get the 1.5.
Well,
or they acquire the requirements, the same as the rest of us have to do.
I understand that.
No,
But at this point, if we go out and we look for enforcement, I mean, every action has a reaction. Everything you do has a consequence, right? So the consequence would be if we go out and we push federal, and I've talked to federal already, and you know, they're like, well, you know, you got to go through the channels and you can get it pushed, and yeah, we could probably get it enforced, and we could probably, you know, get somebody out there. It'd be an easy thing to do. Just put somebody in the staging lot at O'Hare and ask for insurance.
However,
That's something that we pushed through and did. How is that in the end going to affect our membership? Should we worry about how it affects our membership? Should we care?
The consequence of not doing it, at some point, there's going to be an accident, a tragic accident, and that is going to put a mark on our industry, and we're all going to be paying for it anyways.
Can you put a vote together on this call and see what everybody thinks?
I don't think it matters what they think.
I'm curious.
Well, okay, hold on a
I'd be
second.
curious as well.
All right, well, we can put up a poll.
And then again, curiosity is what killed the cat, right?
But wait a minute. I think one thing that's totally missing in this discussion is that if we were to say, look, it's got to be enforced because we see a risk, whatever, I would sure the heck not expect them to immediately go out there and slap people around. We would have to work on transition because there's a lot of education that has to because there's a lot of education that has to happen. There are a lot of operators who really don't know they're doing something they should not do. There are some who do know. And we have a few operators on here who've been around a lot longer than me. And I don't know that you could just arbitrarily say to the feds, go ahead and enforce it and start slapping tickets on them. That would be irresponsible of us as an association. But to Tracy's point, it's only going to take one major accident where somebody's at fault, and we've seen it already, that could really blow this thing out of proportion. And also,
let's be realistic. Over the last 5 or 10 years, there's been hundreds of major accidents, and none of this has ever come up. So what makes you think it's going to come up now? The other thing that was brought up when I got on the call with Fed is, you know what? The other big monkey in the room is Uber. Uber needs to have 1.5 if they're picking up at the airport.
That's why it's not enforced.
and Uber Black would be the same, wouldn't it?
It's not enforced because John's department is paid to enforce commercial motor vehicles, and sedans and SUVs are not categorized as commercial motor vehicles. It's that cut and dry. We would need to go back to the feds and contact them and have them bring sedans and SUVs into the fold.
But weren't we told that IDOT was funded by feds in order to enforce airports?
Correct. And feds told me that they were funded to regulate commercial motor vehicles. And if you look in the FMCSA regulations, sedans and SUVs are not commercial motor vehicles.
Well, nobody
They are
enforced
not commercial
below the
motor
weight limit.
vehicles, but I do believe that Joe and Chris with LBC Fleet has discussed this with someone with the FMCSA that they still need to have a motor carrier number. Now they say there's something on their website, but yeah, you were true. Now, Arthur, you brought up Uber and Lyft. The problem with Uber and Lyft is unless it's prearranged, and I do know that Uber does do some of that, they fall under the taxi cab category where that interstate travel ends when the passenger gets off the plane and it's a new trip. Once they order up the Uber or order up the cab from their phone, it's not part of the same thing in the eyes of the DOT. And I think that's where it gets really confusing with working with the airports, is that, yeah, it's all under the umbrella of the DOT, but the DOT,
it's been proven that
FMCSA.
It's been proven that these people using the app and ordering a car on the app is a prearranged ride. The only thing that is not a prearranged ride is when you walk out on the street, you put your hand up and you hail a taxi. Everything else is prearranged.
Yeah, if you don't mind if I just jump in really quickly, because I think California, any state, has all the rules and regulations times 10, kind of like Boston, Massachusetts. So when it comes to sedans and SUVs, I don't really believe that the DOT should be enforcing as much compared to the local entities. Like we have the California PUC, they require any sedans, SUVs to be categorized and registered as a commercial vehicle. That then lies us having to have an MC number and a DOT number for even our sedans, SUVs. We classify our sedans, SUVs, and sprinters under the same category with a $1.5 million coverage. Anything above a sprinter is 5 million. We cover. We're not required in California to have an umbrella policy, but we have a $10 million umbrella policy. And I think the problem that I'm seeing, at least here in California, is the fact that what you're saying, Art, about Uber and Lyft, it doesn't matter what's been proven. The reality is it's a software company. And that's why they're getting away with everything that they're getting away with. They're not considering themselves a transportation company.
But they would not be, but just to, not to interrupt you, but
No,
I am
no.
interrupt you because they are not, if they go out and ask for insurance, they're not asking insurance from Uber or Lyft. They're asking for the required insurance from that independent contractor that is now working for that software company, transporting people for hire.
That's why every
I had
state.
a conversation with DOT about this, and this is what they basically brought. I didn't even bring up Uber and Lyft thing. He brought it up. But the fact of the matter is, their funding is funding for commercial motor vehicle, and our cars and SUVs and vans are not, for that matter, are not classified as commercial motor vehicles. So the money that the state is getting from the feds.
It's a state by state. It sounds like it's a state by state thing because California, 100%, all our vehicles are, yeah, across the board.
You don't have three different. You don't have Los Angeles with one insurance requirement, the state with another one, and Fed. They're all on the same page.
Correct, because we have the California
on the same page.
And see, I think that's where it's harder. Yeah, that's where the major issue is you guys don't have one uniform body controlling the state. Then that is in line with the DOT. Right now, it sounds like you guys have multiple different entities for each airport or whatever it may be, or each county or whatever. Here in California, the California PUC, it has a minimum, and that's or minimum that we're required, and that's 1 million, or now it's 750,000. Even for TNCs now, they're required to have 750. The airport minimum here at SFO, I don't remember LAX, but I believe SFO is 750,000 for sedan and SUV. Right? They both are. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, unless you have a stretch. Stretch is $1 million.
Right. So anything above SUV, 1.5 million, being like a sprinter, and then anything above that is a 5 million requirement. Anything over 27, over 15 or 16 passengers, 16. I think it is.
Yeah, 16 and above.
So then that's, I think that's where your guys' push should be. Figuring out how to build, because the DOT is only going to do or fund these 10 entities you may have, where for us, we have one entity. So it's easy for us. So maybe that is a starting point. It's trying to figure out, is there a way to
our
make it
goal in trying to figure out what's going on here really was to look at it and say, okay, we've got one requirement from the city, another one from the state, another one from DOT. Somehow or another, you guys got to get on the same page and tell us what we need to tell our membership, because at this point in time, there really isn't anything we can say other than we believe it's 1.5 if you go to the airport. If you never go to the airport and you don't go to the city, you could run 300 with the state. If you're in and out of the city and you don't go to the airport, you can run 350,000. So I mean, it's just
what does $350,000 cover these days?
Exactly.
Not much.
That's what I said. I mean, if you hit a vehicle that's carrying 30 passengers, it's 10 grand a person. That's not a lot.
No, not at all.
Let me just say that I agree with Art that it seems to be that you have multiple agencies competing with each other or different views with each other. And so you can't enforce anything that you can go and find an alternative view to. So there does need to be a unity there. But I will also say, because I have talked to insurance agents, and one I talked to who's been around a while, yes, you can have a tremendously serious accident that you're talking even 1.5 or maybe 5 wouldn't cover. However, they told me, because I asked the question, so have you ever gone over the $500,000 limit? They've been around a long time. They said, no, we haven't. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means what Art was asking earlier, there've been a lot of accidents, and I'm not arguing for one or the other. I'm just saying we need to look at the picture. And the other picture that Art pointed out is that, yes, if everybody comes up with a uniform uniform number that everybody has to do, fine. Up until that point, it's just a matter of whose opinion you're going to do. And if you try to enforce something that even amongst agencies are not there, that would affect membership. I'm sure, seriously.
And the thing that kills me about this is, as an association, our job is to represent membership. And unfortunately, probably 70 to 80% of our membership is not properly insured. So if we do push for enforcement or push to have somebody say, this is what you need to do, in reality, we're sticking it to our membership.
Well, I
Because
think-
if they have $350,000, let's be realistic. If they have $350,000 and they hit a bus carrying 50 people, provided they have a corporation, their claim isn't going to go beyond the 350. They're only going to get 350. How often does it exceed, unless there's some type of extending liability on the operator's part? How often do these claims ever exceed the insurance limits? Michael?
Yeah, so demand letters come all the time. Okay, so if you have a $5 million policy, we've seen demand letters for $12 million. I've had a customer who had $60 million in claims in 6 years. So claims can happen. And if you're in LA or Chicago, they love insurance companies.
Mhm.
New Orleans, the same way. They're strange. But if you're like in the middle of Kansas, Tim, they're not, it's not nearly as bad. It's not as
They'd be like, no, we don't want to.
Litigious.
I only lost an arm. We
Yeah.
want to sue you.
I only,
I got another arm.
Flush wound out here.
I mean, but the answer, that 350 does not go very far. So a broken leg is about $80,000 in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
So
I think the board has to take all the information that has been given to them and have a conversation about how they want to proceed. Everything you're saying, we've heard before, Tracy, your points are valid as well. I feel the same way as Tracy. But I also, we can't forget that, people are, need guidance and so even when you tell them what you think you've read and what it means, they're getting so confused because they can go to 4 different agents and get 4 different observations. No offense, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, you only need this much. So and that's the same for workers' comp too. We're constantly having a conversation about workers' comp. And we all know there's that.
Independent contractor in the state of Illinois does not need commercial workers' comp.
That is.
That's the law. They do not need it.
That's a
It
true
does say
statement
they
in
can
itself.
opt themselves out. So it says they can.
They don't need to
opt-
opt anything out. They don't even need it. They don't need it. If they're an independent contractor, they do not need it in the state of Illinois.
They don't need it, but if you hire them for a trip,
Well, that's
and
a
they don't have
different
workers' comp.
story. But they do not
Right,
need it.
until
Under
they
the
work
law,
for you.
They do not need it.
You're right, Art, but if they
all
work
my
for
time
only
being right.
themselves, it's not an issue. But once they start taking work from one of us, it's a different story.
Right.
Hey,
Well,
Michael,
that's what
can you-
require?
Michael, can I ask you a question? Because
Sure.
my understanding, at least in California, is that if we use an outside company like an IO,
Mhm.
who's an established corporation, not a sole proprietor,
Yep.
has a proper commercial insurance, they don't require the workers' comp either. I've had the situation where a driver IO got injured on picking up a bag or something like that.
Yep.
He came after my workers' comp. My workers' comp declined it because he's actually not on payroll with me. He's paid by a credit card, not a company check.
Right.
Deducting taxes. It was clear. So is that different in Illinois?
Kind of. So California, there's 35 states that subscribe to NCCI. Okay. and California has WCIRB.
Correct.
So it's a different body, if you will.
Got it.
And
Okay.
quite honestly, I would believe that if that scenario happened 10 times, you might get 5 and 5. But I am curious about that. So I'm actually gonna make a note on that, 'cause I'm gonna look that up. So you're saying you're paying them via credit card or Zelle or something like that?
Correct. I'm not paying through, like, they're not a W-2 employee. They're
Right.
straight up just a credit card. That's why we pay all IOs and affiliates through credit cards.
Yeah, I will find the answer and get back to you hopefully today, this afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks.
That's a hot topic with no answers.
It never has any answers. I'm sorry.
I mean, I
know,
just.
It's gonna be on the
Totally.
board agenda, that I can tell you.
No, I mean, I think the question, I don't know, we talk about this in the GCLA meetings. We've even talked about it in the LLA meetings about this stuff is, I think it really comes down to each of the operators to enforce their minimum requirements based on what they want. Like our requirements, we require all of our affiliates, at least IOs here in California. We can't control what Windy City does insurance because they're following the rules and regulations. So, when we use them, we know that we go to Windy City, we go to, Eric Devlin, and these guys who are overly insured, maybe to protect themselves more. It gives us a little bit more peace of mind. So, but at least here in California for us, our minimum requirement is $1.5 million for even our IOs. And that's a lot of money for them. I mean,
Yeah.
right now, an IO, even at, I think 750, somebody just told me it's like $800 a month on one vehicle. And so, you're talking about doing $1.5 million, they're probably going to break $1,000, I would guess, a month, give or take.
I would say a new Navigator is probably 12, 13,000 for an IO and the.
Hey, there you go. So then for us, like, we require it. They have to show us proof. We put it in our system, and Joe and I know Tim brought Joe and Chris up. If you guys really are trying to enforce your minimum requirements, they are the company to go with. Their system, we tested, and it's a proven system where they keep track of all the insurance information for IOs. They send reminders to them when it's coming up a month before, and that's important to me because I don't have enough time in the day. Well, not me, but like Corey, he's in charge of all my affiliates. He doesn't have enough time in the day to manage the, maybe 1,000 IOs that we have between San Francisco and LA.
And
So I
keep
think-
in mind that every corporate account that you're signing to do business with they're all asking for 1.5 million or for the 5 million because those are the minimum requirements.
So
I think there was, I had to step out for a brief moment for a call that came in, but I think there was a question about the work comp and requirements and stuff like that, correct?
yeah,
Who was needing it. I can tell you that there was a case here locally, and it was a number of years ago, that a larger company that does have work comp and treats their employees or their chauffeurs as employees subcontracted a job out to a sedan company. And that sedan company treated their drivers as 1099 independent contractors. They did not carry work comp. During, I guess, one of those contracted trips, the driver that did that trip apparently hurt his back lifting luggage and putting it into the trunk of a car, and then went to one of the ambulance chasing daytime TV chiropractic clinics, and ended up going to his quote employer who didn't have work comp, and then ended up going through to the company that sent the job over and going after their work comp because he was quote hurt doing their job and they had work comp. And I think that's something, now I don't know if it was paid or what, but that is something to consider, that if you have work comp and they don't, that they may still come after your work comp when doing a trip like that.
I wanted to ask a question. There was one person that had a question, and we didn't get to it, but we only have 7 minutes left. Lynn, are you still here?
Yes, I am. I
Okay.
was just curious about what everybody's doing for new hires, what's working for advertising, or if there's some kind of incentives that you're finding that are working well, just changing gears to the hiring need and the need for drivers and qualified drivers at that, not just anybody who thinks they can sit behind a wheel.
I'll go first. We've been doing the referral bonuses. So anybody that refers another chauffeur, once they're here 90 days, we do 300 for part-time and 500 for full-time. And that seems to be working well. So I would have to say our referrals just from our current chauffeurs, as well as our Facebook campaigns, has been our most successful right now.
You know, I did a thing with our present employees and asked them how they felt about us offering new hire bonuses. So not a bonus, like a reward, whatever it is.
Or not?
And you give them a bonus for coming in, and their consensus is, you know what? If you're going to do that, you may as well just give the money to us, and we'd rather have the money. So we went that route, and we decided to give them money that's paid out over a period of time for every employee, every new hire they brought in. And we did get a couple people, but overall it's not working. We basically started raising our rates dramatically and paying a hell of a lot more. And you know what? Now we're getting referrals. We're getting people that are telling people, and we're getting, you know, we're doing better. So, I mean, at this point, we're getting drivers. It looks like we may have more than we actually need. And they're good. And that's kind of, we're just paying a hell of a lot more, and it's worked out. So maybe that's the key. Don't scrimp on it. I mean, my shuttle drivers or my airport shuttle drivers and casino drivers are all like $30 an hour drivers, and they're getting big checks, and we raised the rates to everybody to cover it. And, I mean, I'm better off doing that than having equipment sitting here that I'm paying for and insuring, and I'm paying through the ass for insurance, and not be able to use them because I just don't have people to put in the cars. So it's worked out.
I think a lot of it, at least for us, it comes down to how we're perceived by other drivers and other companies from other companies. I'll give you an example. We just did a big, large group. We allocated probably 10 or 12 other companies. And our drivers tend to kind of stick together and hang out together, and there's a vibe there. And I think that we get a lot of calls like, hey, we just did a group with you, and we're interested in maybe driving with you guys, being a driver for you guys. I think it's a culture in which you place. I mean, as you guys know, I'm very, very laid back. And so I don't come across as a normal business owner. So I think there's a lot of that comfortability, seeing the good vibes and seeing, our brand is very important. We push our brand everywhere. And so I think that has done really well for us, rather than spending money on Indeed ads. And I mean, I've never spent an Indeed ad for a chauffeur. It's all referrals. I still haven't given anybody bonuses for that. I mean, my drivers make very good money here, close to 6 figures each. And so they're very happy. So with that, it's also how much you pay your drivers. Are you paying your drivers competitively or above your competition? Because at the end of the day, you raise your rate, let's say $2.50, you pay your driver $2.50 more an hour. Now you made them even more happy. And so they're going to refer their friends and help. Maya gave me a really good suggestion, and I know we're all struggling right now for Class B commercial drivers, is building your own training center. And I've started the process, at least with the DOT and FMCSA. They have been so friendly on helping us get the training locations, filing all the documents. And probably within the month, I'll be able to start training in-house, not for other companies, but in-house. All the bookwork, it can be done all online. And then we have to do, I think, 20 hours. I don't remember exactly, 20 hours of actually hands-on driving.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
we've been certified for the same, but that's quite an undertaking to open a school. So kind of hesitant about that, but we've been certified to do the same.
Dana, have you spoken to your insurance carrier? Just because you
Yeah.
have the school, they're okay
Yep.
with you hiring him and
Yeah.
putting
So
him up
as
with
long
those?
as, yep, as long as we are properly insured, like we're required to, and Philadelphia is my insurance company,
Yep.
and you know how hard it is to deal with them. I've been with them for 15 years, I think, something like that. And so we went to our underwriter and said, here's what our idea is. I want approval before you guys, and they gave me a written letter saying, as long as we meet the requirements of the DOT, and that we go through the California DMV to get them tested, they're totally okay with it.
That's cool.
Yeah, because some insurance companies have said that some require 2 years of experience.
Correct.
I think, Michael, do you think that's going to be relaxed a little bit at all with this ELDT stuff?
Yeah, so
And I only ask because now you have to go through class. It's not some guy who just showed up and took a test and passed the
Right.
yeah, so my successes so far have been like people getting out of the military, maybe had some training in the military. I see carriers doing that, but if you're just Johnny who's 22, never driven a vehicle before, I think it's a tough sell. Plus, do you want to put Johnny in your $300,000 37 passenger bus who has 3 days of driving experience? I don't know.
I agree.
Now, I was going to tell Lynn, what has worked out well for me is just getting onto Nextdoor, which is pretty much text-based social media, and commenting on posts where people have been looking for jobs, saying we're hiring and this is the earning potential that you can get. And as a result, it seems like some older people tend to be on there. It's not the young crowd, it's not the hip place to be, but I've gotten local retirees that have very flexible schedules. They don't need the job full time. They really enjoy interacting with the clients, and they love it when they come back and they go, I can't believe I made so much money sitting outside that concert, listening to the live music. It was, stadium. I can't believe I made so much money. They were such a fun group. And just be real with what the earnings potential are. I mean, my guys, got paid $47 an hour plus whatever cash tip the client gave them to sit outside of a concert. They were blown away at what they've been able to make and how easy it's been and how fun it's been.
You know what, Lynn, one of our members mentioned to me the other day, and I was gonna call you about it, is they have been doing advertising in local town papers. There's certain areas that they feel that, they could attract people. They said it's not exactly cheap, but they've been doing some ads, and they said actually they ran an ad in a local county paper a few weeks ago and they got the most responses they've gotten in a while. But we look at different things, and I agree, like Indeed, that kind of stuff doesn't work for us. Actually, word of mouth does. And actually it's because when we look for chauffeurs, like there's a lot in my particular neighborhood. So I stalk them at the gas station and the car wash. And it sounds weird, but I really do, because if we see a driver and they are getting ready, they're pumping gas, they're all suited up, the car looks nice, we'll hand them a card, because that says a lot. Sometimes they come out in Bermuda shorts and their feet hanging out with sandals, but no. You really meet some interesting people that way at the gas station, the car wash. I've actually had people come up to me at the car wash if I had the limo with me, and they'd be like, oh, are you hiring? I work over here. So sometimes it's more, just getting out there. It's a little harder for you because you're more rural, but but I like the local advertising. And then someone else suggested county unemployment services. Some people have had luck with those as well.
Mhm.
Community pages on Facebook have worked well for some.
Yep.
There's a lot of companies that specifically, and I don't know what your guys' policy, at least for those that might been incarcerated for, misdemeanor offenses like drugs or anything, and have been through a system. We have a program here in South San Francisco that they once they get out of jail, they spend 6 months through a work program, And then they're required to, it's part of their probation, obviously, drug tested. And we've actually found, we're starting to work with them closely, and I'm connecting with them on bringing them to my Amazon side at least. Because Amazon will take misdemeanor minor offenses, nothing, major, obviously. And I don't see why that wouldn't work for chauffeurs also, if you build a rapport with them and start them at the lowest level and see how they work.
Well, there you have it.
Would you get any subsidies like from the government for getting these? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably do.
Yeah. You have
What
to apply
about
for it.
ERC credits? You guys using those?
What's that?
The employee retention credit money?
Oh yeah. Amazon, that on my limo side, not so much, but my Amazon side was a massive amount.
26, what, up to 26,000 employee or something like that?
Yeah. And we had, I think at one point, 104.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The math is pretty.
My eyeballs are doing
It's a crazy, if that's the one thing, if you guys have not done it, go apply for it. It's free money. And I think they're still accepting applications just to the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken. For what I've read, I might be misunderstanding. I might have
I'm gonna
misread
check
it.
that too.
Don't quote on me. No.
But it's based on you having the employees before COVID hit, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, see, I don't need to bother for $50.
All right, well, we're past 11:30. Does anybody have anything else?
That was pretty engaging.
It was, especially the insurance part. I'm sure we're not done with that yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, I know.
I just think that we as an association need to educate the members on the benefit of having more insurance than what the state minimum is, and then go from there. And then maybe negotiate talks with the state and bumping up what that minimum should be and having it come in line with what the federal requirements are.
That is going to be a very long haul. But I think that we started to at least have some dialogue. We're learning a lot about who can enforce and who will enforce, which we didn't have before. But I do agree with you. The education part's really important. It's actually important for another reason, and that is some of this is a learning experience for the independent operator, because a lot of times they'll say, it's not just insurance. They'll say, well, that's what they told me. And I'm always the one that says, well, did you research it yourself? You really, no matter what they're doing, whether it's insurance, buying a car, picking a mechanic, anything, that my whole thing is you don't rely on what you hear, rely on fact and try to get to the bottom of everything as much as you can, because the more educated they are, the better the questions they can ask. A lot of times I get the sense that some people feel very helpless, or they just feel like, well, I'm going to somebody who I should be able to trust. And I don't disagree, but also I think that, the more educated they get, the better they'll be able to make the decisions and understand what they should and shouldn't do.
So I have a real quick question.
Uh-huh.
Those with the larger vehicles like Tracy and that have motor carrier numbers, at least in Kansas, which is where I am, do you guys pay the sales tax on your vehicles, on your smaller vehicles, sedans, SUVs, or are you exempt? Because I know in Kansas, in Kansas, when we buy a vehicle, we have sales tax that we have to pay when we go to register it if we didn't pay it at the dealership.
Mm-hmm.
But in the industry, seeing as how it's being used in interstate commerce, we have an interstate commerce exemption form that we can use if we have both a DOT and a motor carrier number, because we're in a regulated industry. That means that we don't have to pay sales tax on the vehicle. Now, sales tax around here is close to 10%. When we're talking about $40,000, $50,000 sedans and SUVs, $75,000 luxury SUVs,
Mm-hmm.
$200,000 buses. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars in sales tax that can be saved by having that 1.5 million in insurance and having those motor carrier numbers. And to me, that, you know, not having to pay thousands in sales tax at the time that you purchase the vehicle can help moderate, you know, the increased expense of insurance.
And because you have that MC number, is that it's required at 1.5 million.
Yeah.
But yes, we have the same thing.
Okay. See, and that may be something, I don't know, does it apply to sedans and SUVs? in
Yeah, it
Illinois?
has to be under 10,000 pounds gross weight.
I mean, there's one loophole, which we fought, Jim will remember this, years and years ago, is the Sprinter van. The Sprinter van falls in a certain weight class that was kind of forgotten about. That's when Sprinters just came into our industry.
Yeah.
But that's the one little loophole that you should be paying sales tax on the vans.
Right.
Well, that's ridiculous, but okay.
That happens.
I mean, that may be something worth educating. It says, look, hey, you know, if you bump it up and you do a DOT number and a motor carrier number and 1.5 million in insurance, you're not having to pay sales tax over here. And I don't have to pay sales tax on tires, oil, windshields, wipers, anything that physically makes the vehicle go. Now it's interesting because when I buy tires, I have to pay sales tax on the installation, the labor.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have to pay sales tax on the tires. So, you know, I go a lot of places and end up getting 2 invoices as a result. And that may be worth something that, you know, as an association, educating, you know, here's some ways to increase insurance, but let us help you mitigate that expense by, you don't have to pay sales tax on this, you know.
This kind of opens up another can of worms on our prior conversation or same conversation. The whole 1.5 million in insurance. The only reason that you're exempt from sales tax is it's a rolling stock exemption. And a rolling stock exemption in Illinois requires you to have 51% or more of your trips starting or ending at the airport.
Yep.
So that kind of goes along with the insurance. It's like another sword that falls in that area. I would still like to know how our association wants us to move forward. Do we just look the other way and forget about it and say, you know, we've got a bunch of operators that are all different limits and who cares?
I'm sure, Arthur, it's more than just the airport. I'm sure it's like the train station, or if it truly went out of state. I mean, if it was an interstate trip, correct?
It's anybody traveling in interstate commerce.
Yeah,
So
so it's more than the airport.
But I mean, there aren't a lot of, in our case, there aren't a lot of limousines and SUVs and sedans picking up at train stations. A primary, I mean, the ports. I mean, there's no ports here. It's all basically the airport. But it does open up that other can of worms. So basically, if these operators are deemed not to have the proper insurance and can't go to and from the airport, do they somehow lose their sales tax exemption on the vehicle they bought?
Yep. That's why they audit them. All right, we're almost at 1:45. Are there any other questions?
I could probably beat this like a dead horse.
No, I'm not going to let you. You need to save it for the board. And Tracy's laughing because she agrees. Okay. All righty.
We still don't have any real direction here. So
Well, that's why we need
we're like in
We
limbo.
need to
We're
bring it into closed session.
standing on the chair with the noose around our neck, but we can't step off the chair.
Well, I think it's in fairness to the rest of the directors who are not here, we have to go into session and talk about it. I don't know that I think we get some good information today, but I mean, in my opinion, you know, we'll have to come back to people and tell them what the direction is. We don't know. You're right. Okay. I'd like to get some lunch before the next session. How about everybody else?
Great
Well, do you
discussion.
wanna-
It's great seeing everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Sorry I was late.
Oh, no problem. Tracy jumped right in. She's a trooper. Thank you,
Actually-
everybody, for your time. And Lynn, if you need more information, reach out to me. I have a couple of other suggestions I can give you offline. All right.
All right, guys.
Excellent.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll see you. Bye, everyone.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you, Rob.